Hey there guys, and welcome back to Mana Down Under. Today we are covering your boy, Chromium the Mutable. A 7 mana, Esper Dragon, 7/7, flash, can't be countered, flying, and has a great ability. Discard a card, to end a turn, Chromium becomes a human with base power and toughness 1/1, loses all abilities, and gains hexproof, and cannot be blocked. So when I read that, I would think of Voltron instantly. Make Chromium big as you can, attack, if we need to, trigger the ability, give him hexproof to defend him, make him unblockable. So the idea is a Voltron deck. We want to make him big as we can with all the keywords on it and win the game. You could build the deck around a discard mechanic, that's what some people are doing, but this is going to be Voltron for this video. Now this is just a deck idea, it's not a hardcore deck list like any other, so I leave a bit of variance in the deck because I want to see what other people make. We don't want to net deck everything. So the dream of Chromium is getting something like this. Some silly overpowered 27/27 Annihilator 2 Trample Lifelink Unblockable and some other bullshit commander. That is the dream. And it's not that hard in this deck, it really is not. The idea is because Chromium's expensive. 7 mana is pretty expensive for a commander. So early mid-game, hardcore control, whether it be counter spells, removal, or lockdown enchantments. We have a very strong enchantment theme in this deck. So let's just go into it. First up, we're going to have all our Voltron pieces. So we've got Ethereal Armor, which just check for how many enchantments we have and buff the creature that many. And we have a lot in this deck, so that's good. The Laurel and buff enchantments are pretty handy. Like the white-blue gives +2/+2 and unblockable and lifelink to Chromium. The black-blue gives draw on hit and discard on hit for opponent. And the white-black is just a big buff. It's nice and cheap. Celestial Mantle is silly in the deck because Chromium is unblockable. But on hit, we get to double our life total. And this is a good safeguard in the deck. We are very creature light. So if we keep doubling our life on hit, we can kind of take the lumps, we don't have to worry about blocking. The gift, just a nice little buff, flying, lifelink, a little more damage. Night Howler, if for some reason on the table someone's doing some graveyard shenanigans or someone got milled hard, a creature gets really big where X is the number of creatures in the graveyard. The Eidolon of Countless Battles is similar to Ethereal Armor, just checks for number of enchantments and buffs so much. Eldrazi Conscription, a big card, people love it in Commander. Giving any creature 10/10 and Annihilator and Trample is game winning on the spot. We have a few ways to 2/4 or cheat it into play, which is fine. Angelic Destiny, good big buff, 4/4 and a ton of keywords, and it can return to your hand on death. Umbra, or like Totem Armors, are amazing in the deck. They're just another redundancy plan for your commander. Because Totem Armor is when the creature dies, sacrifices enchantment instead, and the creature stays. Plus they usually have a keyword or a little buff to them. So in this case, I've gone lifelink and 1/1 and first strike. Can't complain. Indestructible is great on your commander, then you just don't care. If you got hexproof, indestructible, unblockable commander, who's better than you anyway, eh? You don't need friends. Play Infect and commander. It's an easy win, boys. Pheresis, just give your commander Infect for 2 mana. Spirit Loop is a weird like lifelink Rancor, and because it's not actual lifelink, it does work with lifelink, so you can have like double lifelink if it makes sense. Auramancer's Guise is just a big buff because it gives your equipped creature +2/+2 for each other aura attached to that creature, and vigilance, which helps on blocking. So Chromium gets out of hand very quick. Sarah's Wings, just a big buff again, a lot of keywords. Spirit Mantle, another buff but pro creatures, so it helps as well. Battle Mastery, just double strike. Commander damage is a thing in this deck you can quite easily win. Now, the artifacts, or the equipment part. Like I said, you don't need friends, play Infect. Grafted Exoskeleton gives it +2/+2 and Infect. It's a pretty quick clock. Blackblade Reforge is amazing in the deck. It just keeps buffing Commander the longer the game goes, because you're going to keep playing your lands. And it works really well with the Sword of the Animist, where on attack you get to search your library for a basic put into play. And plus a little buff. You can play any of your swords. Play as many as you want. I like Feast and Famine. It's expensive, but it's good. On hit, the fact that you get to make your opponent discard a card and you untap all your lands is like another turn essentially. You can play more enchantments, more control. It's great in this deck. What else do we have? We've got the Hammer. The Hammer is from Commander 2017. I've got it here because on entry it instantly equips to a creature. You don't have to pay the equip cost, which is amazing. The fact that it gives the creature +2, and +0, and indestructible. Just more protection for a commander. Argentum Armor, a big beefy buff of +6/+6, and record permanent on attack. Logs on the Warhammer, I love the card, I love that artwork by Therese, but simple stats, lifelink and trample. The Jitte is here if you want to spend the money, of course, but it gives you a bit more options. The fact that you can buff the commander for further damage if you're nearly there, can help remove weenies, or if you need to gain life, you can. The life gain's probably not the part you're going to use. What else do we have? We have Hero's Blade, which is just a free equipment essentially. Bloodforge is great if you're struggling with your 1-1. If you haven't got any equipment pieces, it can keep replicating, making more copies. Then you can start equipping them all to Chromium. Batterskull just does double duty. It's a creature on entry. Then if we want to move the stats onto Chromium, no problem. Alright, now the actual creatures in the deck. These 4 here do the heaviest lifting you've ever seen. Zer the Enchanter, on attack, searches your library for any enchantment of CMC 3 or less, put it straight into play. A lot of the control is enchantments, and they are CMC 3 or less. You could say this is a Zer deck with a different commander. Bruna, on attack or block, can attach any number of auras on the battlefield, and you may put any number of auras from the graveyard onto her. Pretty handy. Do not rip auras off Chromium, you probably want to keep them on Chromium. Sovereigns of the Lost Alara. Whenever a creature attacks alone, search your library for an aura, put it onto that creature. So you're going to get Elderizing Inscription, give your commander +10/+10, trample and Annihilator 2. Commander damage is a really easy one in this game, or if you had Infect, that's a one-shot at that point. Sun Titan does the Lord's work in this deck. Majority of the deck is CMC 3 or under, so we can keep recurring our control enchantments on attack and defense. Oh, on attack or entry, sorry. We've got a lot of draw, or things that care about our auras, artifacts and whatnot. Saram, Mesa, and Core can let us draw a card on cast of an enchantment, or an aura in this case. Daphnia is just a good reduction spell, and she's got good stats on her own. Nomad Mythmaker just helps us recover our auras that we've lost. Doomwake with this trigger just helps keep down the opponent's creatures. Thassa is just more unblockable, and the Scry is helpful. Stoneheaver, ripping equipment out of our deck straight into the battlefield, cannot complain. Now there's a few Sphinx which help the deck too. The Lawbringer is actually not too bad. When he enters, the opponent cannot cast instant or sorcery during the next turn, so you lock him out of board wipes and control. And he has the Sphinx's res on attack, so it's pretty good. And like I said, you don't need friends, so play Magister Sphinx. When it comes into play, target player, life total 10, boom, then you're dead. The final word, funny enough, the final word, you won't get into a counter battle with anyone. Makes all your instant sorcery unblockable, which is really good. Feels real safe, you're nice and warm and cozy. Consecrated is just more draw, where Esper we care about draw. I like these little two, you don't have to run them, but because you're a Voltron, they're a good backup, because if you put a ton of equipment and enchantments on them, they become their own lethal threat. Especially the Mirror Phyrexian Crusader with Infect. Just another idea. Have a little few backups. Now control. Majority of it will be counter and dead removal, and you have so many enchantment ones. So your actual commands here are great. You've got all your different options, artifacts, enchantments, creatures of certain CMC, just straight up counter, bouncing, tapping, draw. They're all handy here. So I love them. Then you've got all your enchantments of CMC 3. So Grasp of Fate, Oblivion Ring, Detention Sphere all do the same thing pretty much. Prison of the Moon is the same idea, but a little bit different. Banishing Light, Darksteel Mutation, get that on their commander to make them cry. Prison Term is great because it can shift around the battlefield. Journey Nowhere is nothing cheap early on. They're all great equipment, enchantments equipment. Then you've got your Propaganda and Ghostly Prison effects that just, when you've got them out and that many in this deck, the opponent just can't attack, they just can't. It's too costly. And then you got all your counter. So you want a lot in this deck. Swan Song, Mana Leak, Disallow. Rewind is a great one. Lets you untap 4 lands. Again, play more counter spells. Render Silence, like nearly a free turn spell, because you get them in the first main phase. They're probably not doing much else that turn. Mana Tithe, I love it. Jabate them. They don't see it coming anytime. Remand, lets you draw. Handy, negate, nice and cheap. Then, because you're white-black as well, you have the best removal. Unmaking, Vindicate, and Utter End can pretty much hit any permanent. Mortify, it's still pretty good. Path to Exile, Swords of Plowshare, Commander staple, we've seen them before. Go for the Throat and Hero's Downfall, just good removal. Then your actual wipes. So Wrath of God and Damnation are cheap, effective, it's what you need. Armageddon is the way to do it. If you've really taken control of the game, mid to late game, you're not letting anyone have any fun, drop an Armageddon, get rid of all the lands, the only thing left will probably be your commander, and just keep chipping away at them while they're trying to rebuild their board, and they'll probably be dead in time. Rift, because you're a blue player, why not? Now that's your support. So support's just anything that the deck might need. A bit of draw, maybe a bit of protection. Solemnity, it works really well in the deck, just as protection, but if you want to go for the infection win, probably pull it out of the deck. Remora, just more draw. It's like a poor man's Ristic Study. You don't care about the upkeep cost, because you can just sacrifice it, bring it back, res it, whatever. Ristic Study and Friction Arena, just good draw. Animate Dead, just res any creature from any graveyard, and you can tutor for it really easily. Greater Auramancy is a really big card in the deck. It's very good. Protects all your enchantments and enchanted creatures, but it's 40 bucks. If you got one, great. Retether and Open the Vaults just helps bring all your stuff out your graveyard. Stolen Identity is actually really good in the deck. I think Cypher is underrated sometimes, especially when you've got an unblockable commander. So the way you do it is you do the ability of the card, in this case, make a token of a creature on the battlefield, or an artifact, then you embed that card's abilities onto your commander. Every time Chromium hits the enemy player, you get to do that effect again. So in one turn, you can create 2 copies of something on the board. Dig Through Time is just handy. You'll probably find something good in top 7. Tutors, you're white, black, blue. You've got the best tutors in the game. I like Enlightened and Vampiric, because Enlightened can go for artifacts or enchantments, which is the majority of the deck, and Vampiric can go for anything. And like I was saying, there is a discarding theme going on the deck, because you have to discard to activate Chromium's ability. So some people build around that. You totally could go Drake Haven or Faith of Devoted and just ditch a ton of cards to the ability, pay the 1 each time, and do whatever. Make an army of 2/2 Drakes, siphon for 2, or with the Archfiend of Ifnir, you can just blanket enemy team's board with neg-1 counters. Again, if you have Solemnity in deck, probably not going to work. I like having Crucible of Worlds here, because if you're Armageddoned, it's handy. Or I like to discard lands to Chromium. Saves me losing my better stuff, and then I just replay the lands. So, a little more value there. For lands in the deck, just color fix how you want to. That's why I like to leave a bit of variation in the deck, and plus I hate drawing up lands in decks. But Rectile would be really handy. Your Esper, just maximum hand size is handy. Mistveiled Plains helps you recover lost pieces, so you can tutor from again later. And because you are Esper enchantments essentially, your board stays pretty full for a long time. So the Shrine of Nyx isn't too bad, like your devotion is pretty high. I've got Excavations here because I love it. People don't really know about the card, I don't think, but it lets you pay 1, scry 1 on a land. That's not too bad. And like always, there's a ton of cards I probably haven't mentioned, but that's what variance is for. Everyone builds their commander decks differently. Choose your own rocks, choose your own planeswalkers. In this one, Teferi would be really handy, but he's got that standard meta price on him right now. I like the cheap Jace, the Castaway, because he lets you loot on hit. There's tons of cards to run in the deck, but yeah, let me know how you want to build the deck. It is a pretty strong Voltron commander. It's in 1v1, it's terrifying. They're just going to control and murder you for so long, drop this big menace that can't be dealt with, and they're going to load it up and just run you down. It's a pretty cool commander. I think it's a bit underrated. So, sorry about that. Let me know, what do you think? And mention down below. Or if you've got your own commander decks, link them to me. Alright guys, have a good one. Thanks for watching guys. Please remember to like and sub, and have a good one.